Yeah, can you elaborate on what critical social justice theory is?
So it's just critical social justice. Critical theory comes before that, and then before critical race theory, there comes critical theory. So critical theory gives rise to a range of studies. We have gender studies or gender theory, critical race theory, I think discrit, which is like the critical theory related to people with disabilities. So where you find disparages, and that's because of ableism. And so then out of that, you have people who look at these studies and they kind of create a practical application for how to bring balance to those disparities in everyday life. So that's where we have like diversity, equity, inclusion programs operate off of that premise from these critical race theory studies. And so you try to tell people, hey, based on this body of work, we find that white people tend to have more tendencies to exclude people of color from conversations. And so this diversity, equity, inclusion program is here to bring balance back to that. I think why I find a huge frustration with it is because it sort of predetermines people to certain actions and in fact places labels on people of different skin colors and says, hey, you're most likely to experience discrimination, oppression. If you feel any sort of discomfort in a white space, it's most likely because of racism. If you happen to be white, you're most likely perpetuating white oppression or white supremacy. So we need you to be less of the things that you do. And so I think what I've noticed at least in my American landscape, and a belief that I held on to because I looked out at the world through this lens for a while, is that it sets people up, if you happen to be marginalized, it sets people up to view the world in a very cynical and disempowering way. Where I can't go into a room with white individuals, say if I was operating out of this lens, and think, oh yeah, like everything's chill here, because I'm constantly thinking, well, as a Black woman, what are the ways that they're going to enact these racial aggressions against me? So during 2020, that feeling, that phenomenon of white supremacy versus Blackness was very, very intense. And I didn't know how else to speak to it in a more like, hey, what if we're all brothers and sisters regardless of skin color? Like when I tried to talk that way, there was a lot of pushback, a lot of disagreement to say, racism is very real. How dare you, try to hinder progress by speaking out against this social justice movement that really just wants to help us. But I found a lot of fault with it, especially through my own experiences, and criticizing that fault was almost as worse as like experiencing some of the judgmental, inclusion sessions that I've been a part of. So yeah, those are the frustrations I have with that ideology.